File item 14, AB 1217. Mr. Fong.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. First, I would like to accept the committee's amendments. Last October, this committee and the Assembly Education Committee held an informational hearing to discuss a change in what would qualify a student for undergraduate admission to the UC and by extension, the CSU. During the course of this oversight hearing, we learned the UC made a decision to remove data science and statistics as a viable alternative to Algebra 2 without consultation with K-12 or CSU stakeholders. And when determining the types of courses that would validate Algebra 2, the UC compared high school courses with collegiate courses. As stated by the chair of the UC boards, the UC uses K-12 content standards to evaluate high school courses as meeting A to G requirements. However, the question remains, what occurs when the State Board of Education have authorized frameworks, model curriculum, or assigned content standards to courses that the UC does not view as preparing students for admission? Assembly Bill 1217 requests the UC to use the K-12 content standards, framework, and model curriculum when evaluating whether a course qualifies as A to G. A to G is the minimum criteria a student must have to be qualified for admission to the UC and CSU. This measure would also align the A to G course approval process to the K-12 academic calendar. By having the courses submitted sooner in the year, K-12 districts will have time to adjust student schedules if a course is not A to G approved. Here to testify in support is Valerie Johnson with Campaign for College Opportunity. I'm sorry, Jesse here with Campaign for College Opportunity.
No problem. Thank you, Assemblymember Fong. Good afternoon, committee members. Jesse Ryan, president of the Campaign for College Opportunity, also proud first-generation college graduate. For those of you who are not familiar with the Campaign for College Opportunity, we are an organization dedicated to policy, research, and advocacy on behalf of ensuring that all students, irrespective of their race, ethnicity, income level, or zip code, have the opportunity to go to college, to succeed, and to achieve economic mobility. Unfortunately, for far too many California students, college opportunity is not guaranteed. College admission standards can serve as a barrier to opportunity for students, given the way the current approval process for college admissions eligibility criteria works. Our high schools and colleges operate in silos in addressing college admissions eligibility criteria, leaving students in underserved communities to navigate a maze of shifting college admissions eligibility criteria, with unclear guidance on what high school courses they need to take to gain admissions to a California college, and delays in approving high school courses for college admissions. AB 1217 is a critical equity intervention that would build a framework for stronger coordination between the UC, CSU, and State Board of Education. We know that setting college admissions standards and approving A through G courses for college admissions in alignment should be the gold standard. Current decisions on college admissions eligibility criteria directly impact a student's ability to go to college and are made with insufficient transparency, insufficient public input, and insufficient attention to equity. Last year's decision, as Assemblymember Fong talked about, by the UC Board of Admissions and Relations with Schools to revise Math C admissions criteria was made without the appropriate data analysis or opportunity for stakeholder input, raising serious concerns about educational equity and transparency that led to this committee to host a dedicated oversight hearing. Fortunately, AB 1217 ensures that prior to major changes in college admissions eligibility moving forward, such as potential conversations already happening to return to the SAT or ACT, last discussed at the February boards meeting, that there would be a formal, inclusive process to understand those changes and to mitigate the unintended consequences of any changes for students. This bill establishes a more equitable, a more timely, a more transparent process for the UC and the CSU to approve high school courses that meet A through G eligibility requirements. Currently, as was stated earlier today, only half of California students complete the full A through G sequence, and many high schools lack sufficient A through G course offerings. AB 1217 helps address these disparities by requiring that high schools receive more timely feedback and clear guidance on how to gain approval of their course offerings to fit admissions eligibility criterion. And they also are given the ability to ensure alignment based on a thoughtful, deliberative process. We've seen time and time again that without higher ed coordination across California, students pay the price. AB 1217 offers a roadmap for equitable, student-centered policymaking in higher education when it comes to college admissions, with greater accountability for ensuring that every student has a real chance to meet their college dreams. We commend Assemblymember Fong for his leadership on this issue and the other members who are tackling difficult changes, and we'd like to urge your aye vote on AB 1217 today. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have an additional witness in support of your measure?
No.
No, okay. We'll get to the opposition. Any public comments in support of the measure, please come forward. Seeing none. Any witnesses in opposition to the bill? Please proceed.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Acting Chair Maratsuchi and members of the Higher Education Committee. My name is Jelani Nelson. I'm professor and chair of the Computer Science Division at UC Berkeley. I am before you in my personal and expertise capacity. My remarks do not represent those of the UC or the Berkeley campus. AB 1217 asks UC to align A through G requirements with state board adopted content standards and frameworks. And the author's intent alleges the UC has recently failed to do so for Area C, that is mathematics. I am here to refute these allegations, making the motivation for this bill unclear. The state standards for mathematics, which I have here, dictate that for students to be college ready, they should learn the content covered in the traditional Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2 pathway over 3 years, also covered in the integrated pathway. UC Academic Senate Regulation 424.A.3.C, commonly known as Area C, requires exactly the same and is thus perfectly aligned. I also note that the recent math framework makes it clear in Chapter 1 that the framework merely serves as a guide to implement the standards and doesn't change the standards. Since the math standards from over a decade ago haven't changed, thus similarly, neither has Area C. A point of confusion has been data science. The bill analysis claims that in July 2023, boards unanimously voted to remove data science as substituting for Algebra 2, putting the UC in conflict with the math framework. This is false for 2 reasons. The first is that the July 7, 2023 boards meeting minutes state that the revocation was only for data science courses that were currently approved as of the time of the vote, since at that time, no data science courses covering or assuming Algebra 2 content existed. The same July minutes also made clear that data science courses could count if they actually depended upon Algebra 2 content. In fact, for example, Oxnard Union High School District has already received Algebra 2 approval by the UC for an integrated Math 3 via data science course, which they are teaching right now, thus teaching data science in a way that aligns with the state standards and framework and Area C. The second reason is that this decision was in support of the framework, not in conflict with it, since, as already mentioned, the framework has not changed the standards and the decision upheld standards in UC's own policies. What is true is that several districts across the state, including LAUSD, rolled out specific data science curricula, such as IDS and U-cubed explorations in data science, as Algebra 2 substitutes, despite those curricula not even coming close to aligning with state standards and the framework as third-year high school math courses. What's so puzzling is the latter curriculum was even developed by one of the math framework authors, who one would expect to have known the standards. In fact, the first draft version of the framework even advertised these 2 curricula by name. I mind you, both curricula charge districts money to train teachers to teach the curricula. They are revenue-generating programs. Though advertisements of these specific curricula were correctly removed from later drafts of the framework, the confusion had already been sown. I urge the committee to call leadership from the California Department of Education, as well as these 2 curriculum designers, to an oversight hearing to investigate this matter and how conflict of interests wreaked havoc on our state processes. As for AB 1217, I respectfully request your nay vote.
Thank you. Any witnesses in opposition or any tweeners? Please go for it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Jessica Duong with the University of California. UC does not currently have a position on this bill, but we'd like to raise that the issues around admissions change processes may be better discussed within a higher education coordinating body, which there are several bills, including the chair's bill, on this issue this year. We look forward to continuing our discussions with author's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further public comments, we'll bring it back to the committee. Any questions from the committee? Dr. Sharp Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello again. So as we continue to talk about college alignment, and thank you so much for your testimony as well from the Campaign for College Opportunities, know that I am all for equity, and I want students to gain equal access to higher education, and I want students to 100% be college ready. But there are significant discrepancies between K-12 curriculum standards and UC standards, as UC's academic requirements are more rigorous, and they are designed to ensure that students are prepared for the challenges of higher education, as standards are changing pretty much every year, So as students, they are currently applying to universities, the requirements change based on the number of applications, GPA, et cetera. There's so many factors that come into play. But as a higher education person myself, the alignment structure is something that I can see to prove to be difficult as it pertains to different courses. I know, sir, you were talking about math, but I can talk about the ethnic studies component and some other aspects as well, where the course alignment can be difficult. And I'm saying all this to say that courses that are authorized from the university, whether CSU and or UC, is done through whether it's the academic senate and so forth. So they have already agreed upon the overall course structure and the objectives and the expectations that students are asked to be to learn. And so to now take those standards and say, hey, we need to have the K-12 have those standards. Now we're going against the grain of what the course was authorized for and how it was authorized from the university directly. And so as an instructor, I want to make sure that my students are adequately prepared to come into my course. However, it's difficult to do that if we don't have real understanding of what the K-12 curriculum is actually talking about. You can't have the higher ed now come down and say, hey, I need you all to now, I guess to adjust the alignment. To me, the alignment is just to remain with the adjustment of going to higher education, not have the higher education come down to the K-12 standards of what their requirements should be from A through G. And I know that we're talking about adding an H. So I'm just sharing some of my thoughts in regards to this. One, having worked at the university, since 1998, and being a professor for the last 17 years, and just working on different sides of it, I do see this as being an issue, and that it can be an issue, but I'm all for equity. I want everyone to be college ready, but we can't ask universities to bring the alignment down to equal out to what K-12 have. There's structure for a reason. The courses are approved for a reason, for a certain mechanism, and we should be able to make sure that our K-12 system can meet the needs of our universities, not the university meet the needs of our K-12 in that aspect from the course alignment. That's how I'm approaching it. Any comments?
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharp Collins, for your comments on this. We definitely want to look at the K-12 content standards to make sure that it qualifies for the A to G qualifications for a student to access the UC system. This bill came out of the oversight hearing when we looked at some of the data and metrics of the acceptance of, at one point, data science courses to qualify for the math framework. And so that caused confusion up and down the state with a number of the high schools and the counselors in terms of what classes students would have to take to qualify for the UC system. Under some of the prior guidance, it was stated that these courses would qualify for A to G coursework to apply for the UC system. And if a student took that course and they only found out subsequently that it did not qualify, it put them in arrears in terms of their opportunity to apply for the UC system. So this bill would help align those standards. Do you want to add?
I just wanted to add one thing. So Assemblymember Collins, I really appreciate your comments. I think what's important about what 2017 seeks to do is that it's broader than just one decision related to Area C at the UC Boers level. We have seen that consistently over many years, and I've been doing this work for 20 years, admissions changes move forward. fashion that is often not transparent, not consultative with other systems, not taking into account through an equity analysis and data analysis the potential impact of the changes. I love what you're saying, because what you're saying is really not that this is not necessary. You're saying that no one entity should dictate the standards, and you shouldn't have the UC dictating the standards for, or you shouldn't have the K-12 system dictating the standards for the UC. What this bill is doing that I think is so important is it's requiring a deliberative process that is collaborative, where we say when we're making changes, we are going to do an impact analysis, we are going to have a conversation with K-12, and we're even going to ask, if we make this change, will we be able to offer the courses necessary to ensure that there isn't a disparate impact for Black and Latinx students in some districts across the state? We know that absent those conversations, there are grave challenges that often emerge. We defeated a similar initiative that would have established quantitative reasoning as an admissions standard at the CSU level, and it was not in consultation with K-12 or other stakeholder groups. When an independent equity analysis was moved forward, we found that it would most disproportionately harm Black and Latinx students if the change was made. The change was held back, but it would not have been held back had it not been for advocates, students, and K-12 leaders stepping forward to say this process does not work for the students we seek to serve.
Thank you for that point of clarification. So I just want to make sure that I have it clear that it's not so much of us trying to make the decision for the UC. We're saying just to make sure everyone is having a seat at the table as we talk about the impacts that it's going to have on the marginalized population.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that we have that point of clarification. Okay, thank you.
Professor.
I'd just like to address this. Here in my hands, I have a letter from the Black Engineering and Science Alumni Club that was in support of the UC decision. Also, the majority of Black faculty across the entire UC system, I was one of them, in fields closest to data science, namely mathematics, computer science, and statistics, signed on to a letter that actually asked for the same thing. As far as the equity issue, there does not exist a single high school in the state of California that has an A through G list, which offers statistics or data science while not offering Algebra 2. Such a high school today does not exist in the state of California. So that is a non-issue. Lastly, I would like to say that BORS actually did look at data, and the data is in the July 17th, 2023 meeting minutes. And what they looked at was, at that time, if you look at the last cycle of applicants to UC for freshman admission, what % of applicants were going this route? What % of applicants took a high school or data science course and had it on their transcripts without having Algebra 2 or Math 3? And the answer was 0.16%. So the UC took swift action, the BORS and the Academic Senate took swift action to make sure that this problem didn't grow. They nipped it in the bud before it became a problem. And that was the reason for their swift action, which, by the way, was not a policy change. It was an enforcement of policy, and it was an enforcement of the state standards and framework. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the committee? I'd like to just add, as Chair of the Education Committee, we had the joint oversight hearing last fall, and you know, Professor, I appreciate your passion to defend the high standards of you know, of mathematics and what should and should not qualify for you know, the UC to meet your standards. But I think the point that we're trying to address the intent of this measure, as well as Ms. Patel and Ms. Quirk-Silva's earlier bill, is that because we have our K-12 and especially our high schools aligning, you know, some of our schools have aligning their graduation requirements with the A through G requirements, that we can't have this subcommittee of the Academic Senate, of the UC Board of Regents, dictating graduation policy for our K through 12 schools. And so, you know, what we're trying to do is to coordinate. You know, one, recognize that that these type of changes made by the BORS committee can have a tremendous public policy impact on California public school students, and that it is not within the jurisdiction of the Boards Committee to be making such public policy. That's what so we're trying to establish a procedure here to encourage, if not ensure, that our University of California policies, do not dictate the policies of our California K-12 public schools. So that is why I'm strongly in support of this measure. Seeing no further comments from the committee, Mr. Chair, would you like to close?
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Cerrucci. And to echo those comments, we had a robust, nearly 4-hour hearing last October, November, here in our capital to really dive into these issues. We had experts up and down the state, we had public testimony as well, and to amplify those efforts here, we really wanted to amplify those comments as well. And so really, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the bill.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll. This is a do-pass recommendation from the chair with double refer to the Committee on Education. I don't think I need to abstain on this, given that we have had extensive conversations on this issue. So thank you.
Thank you.
File item number 14, AB 1217. The motion is due pass as amended to the Education Committee. Fong.
Aye.
Fong, aye. DeMaio. Berner. Aye. Berner, aye. Jeff Gonzalez. Jackson. Mersucci.
Aye.
Mersucci, aye. Patel. Aye. Patel, aye. Celeste Rodriguez. Aye. Celeste Rodriguez, aye. Sharp Collins.
Not voting, and I would like to see what this bill's gonna look like when it comes to the floor.
Sharp Collins not voting. Tongipa? Tongipa, aye. 6 ayes, 1 not voting. We'll hold it open.